Well, good morning from my side, and good afternoon to others from wherever you're joining us. You're joining our webinar series here, Succeed in Germany's Healthcare Market. Today's focus is the German market access, as well as the regulatory update for medtech manufacturers. I'm Omar Oweiss, Director of Investor Consulting and your moderator for today's webinar, based out of the Washington, D.C. office for Germany Trade Invest. Real quick, if you're joining us for the first time, Germany Trade Invest is the foreign trade and inward investment promotion agency for Germany. We do a lot of different things as well as this webinar series, but in a nutshell, we help international companies establish business operations in Germany. We're really a resource for you. We have a great deal of information and publications, industry related, as well as just general information about how to set up business in Germany and conduct business in Germany. It's all free of charge, as well as this individual one-on-one consulting we can provide to our clients, which consists of, but is not limited to, market and industry reports, as I said, market entry analysis, tax and legal information, as well as funding and financing, partnering availabilities in Germany, and site selection. We can help you find the best cluster, best area, best metropolitan region for your product, for your service, for your needs. You're probably seeing a URL at the very bottom of my each of my slides. That is our dedicated webinar series URL, or our review page. Just a real quick highlight. Today's webinar, we have over 220 registrants, so very excited about that. Thank you for joining us again. It is the third one of the year. As you see, we've covered the hospital market in Germany, as well as the OTC and self-medication market. We have a final one on funding options for life science companies. And again, that URL will take you to past webinars that we've had last year. You find bios and CVs of all the speakers, all the presentations, as well as live streams to all past and current webinars. Today's agenda of 3 excellent speakers, all dialed in from Germany. Mr. Gabriel Fleming from our Germany Trade Invest headquarters in Berlin. He'll give us the regulatory update and give us an idea of what's going on and what we can expect. He'll be followed by Mr. Gerd Gottschalk from GID Germany, which is the German subsidiary of GI Dynamics. He'll give us a testimonial and reimbursement showcase as to how GID did it in Germany. And followed by these 2 gentlemen is Dr. Sandra Kreft from Thematic's Healthcare Group. She'll give us additional information on navigating administrative bodies in Germany with a focus on ISO 13485. Oops, 1 second, please. There we go. Throughout the presentations, and my hope, of course, is to have all 3 presenters give their spiel. You can post questions using your webinar toolbar. You will not interrupt the presenter, so feel free to send me those questions. I'll be able to see them and gather them, and hopefully at the very end we'll be able to address most, if not all, questions. Let's begin. First speaker, Mr. Gabriel Fleming, as I said, from our healthcare team in Berlin. He'll provide the update on the ongoing revision of the European medical device regulation, followed by an introduction to the reimbursement system in Germany. We look forward to Gabriel's presentation. The right's coming your way.
Okay, and hi everybody from Berlin. This is Gabriel speaking here, ready to give you my regulatory update. I'm going to start out with sharing some good news for you guys joining our webinar here today. Accessing the European market is really a mission possible, not at all a mission impossible. The European market for medical technology is the largest in the world. It's worth some 100 billion euros. The largest single market within Europe is actually Germany, which accounts for some 30% of the market volume. So it's definitely worth the effort to sell and become established here. Question is how to become established. The European medical device regulation framework is widely known. It has been in place since the 1990s. Medical devices are divided in 3 risk categories, class 1 with low risk, up to class 3 with high risk potential. We have in vitro diagnostic devices that are included in this framework, and you can sell in Europe as soon as you can prove that you are conform with this regulation, which is usually merited by getting a CE mark, by working with a notified body. And actually, for some low-risk products in class 1, there's not even the need to work with a notified body. This regulatory framework is changing. The European Commission has issued a proposal for revision in 2012. This routine measure was only in part motivated by some safety scandals we had back at that time. This proposal will go through a first reading of the European Parliament and is followed by a first reading of the European Council of some 28 member states' health ministers. This is, of course, paralleled by discussions going on the national levels, where we have industry associations communicating their ideas to their national health ministries. So obviously, this is a very democratic process going on. We have the top 3 legislative bodies of Europe involved, and will, as per the timeline, go to the next slide. We know the process started in 2012. Actually, it has already passed the Parliament first reading, which had to deal with some 600 individual requests for detailed changes within the proposal. Some 2 weeks ago, the European Council concluded their first reading, which leads for the 3 bodies to enter a trilogue and to finalize the proposal, which is expected to be adopted no earlier than the end of year 2016. However, this proposal adoption will not be effective before the year 2018. This is due to some interim regulation, and it may even take until 2019, which leaves industry some time to prepare for this new regulation. As to what to prepare for, notified bodies. There's already a new modus operandi in place for notified bodies. In the wake of the safety scandals, there were some immediate actions taken in 2013, which led to the notified bodies to be assessed by joint EU and national working groups. And today, the number of notified bodies throughout Europe is down to some 70 notified bodies in the Union. The notified bodies are also forced to assess their clients more strictly. There will be more unannounced audits taking place, which means that there are actually going to be physical unannounced visits to the manufacturer's facilities. And actually, this regime is expanded to the critical suppliers, even when they're based outside of Europe. It's recommended to the manufacturers that they audit their suppliers on a regular basis. And it is also recommended to actually harmonize their quality and risk management systems. And companies who can prove they're doing this will reduce the likelihood of being visited by surprise by the notified body they're working with. There will be some reclassifications as well. We have some reclassifications of previously low-risk products in class 1. This will be affecting some surgical instruments, for example. They be reclassified to 2A medium risk. And more significantly, probably, we have class 3 for high-risk products, which will be expanded, meaning that some 2B medium risk products will be upgraded as class 3 high-risk products. As to clinical evaluations and audits, there will be a scrutiny procedure in place for all high-risk devices which comes with a expected request for more clinical evidence. The so far common procedure to refer to external clinical data that is publicly available or of competitors will not be sufficient in most cases in the future. Clinical data is supposed to be published in the UDAMED database, which will include some ongoing and long-term information as per the lifecycle management approach taken by the European legislators. There will also be a unique device identification system, which will require manufacturers to apply a unique barcode or data matrix on every single product. And this will be key to the UDI database, which contains some 21 elements of information for every single device. Of course, this is to be provided by the manufacturers themselves again. Once you have been able to declare conformity to this EU regulation, you will be facing the reimbursement issue, which is, of course, subject to national legislation in Europe. And actually, the inpatient reimbursement process in Germany is a relatively straightforward process, as authorities here are merely executing a right to ban products from being marketed. Products that are intended for use longer than 3 years are considered capital goods, and as such can be sold directly to opinion leaders, the decision makers within hospitals. Other products, however, are subject to the German DRG system, Diagnose-Related Group System, with lump sums fixed and to be provided to the hospitals. Actually, any new product can be sold under pre-existing DRG codes. This means really that your products will be reimbursed in Germany, but it also means that the lump sum available for the hospital has already been fixed. There's one premium tool at hand to increase the reimbursement available to the hospital. The procedure is called to place a novel diagnose and treatment method application, NUB by German acronym. And currently an individual hospital can apply for NUB status, and when granted can enter in direct negotiations with the statutory health insurance companies to negotiate for additional on-top premium fees in addition to the pre-existing DRG lump sums. In the midterm, you can install your own individual operations and procedure codes, which will enable you to secure increased reimbursement permanently. This NUB system is actually being revised as well. In the future, for all Class 3 products, the so-called Joint Federal Committee will become involved directly. There will be a call for more clinical evidence, and also the Joint Committee will ask for the underlying scientific background in the case of every Class 3 initial NUB application. Again, this accounts for all Class 3 applications for NUB devices. There, on the bright side, however, is already a coverage with evidence development procedure in place, which will reduce risk and cost of these clinical trials. So there is also an infrastructure prepared that should be making the trouble somewhat easier. In the outpatient sector, we are not subject to a DRG system. Here the maxim is reimbursement when on positive list. Take an example, a ultrasound device to be used as practice equipment in the physician's practice. This can be purchased by the doctor directly. The doctor's services and budgets, in turn, are regulated by the so-called Uniform Valuation Standard, EBM in German acronym. Me Too products are very likely to be represented in this EBM catalog, which means that as soon as you can attribute an individual cipher, EBM cipher, to your product, you can sell it to the doctor directly. In the case of new products, we have the situation that the Joint Federal Committee will become involved and will ask for evidence for as per the medical need and economic validation. As per, or actually in this case, just as in the inpatient sector, we have the coverage with evidence development procedure in place, which would reduce the burden in that case. As per practice supplies intended for multiple patients or use in emergencies, this is to be negotiated on the state level. We have 16 states in Germany, each with their own association of statutory health insurance physicians, KV in German, and they will decide if your product is to be found on the list or if the list needs to be amended. In the case of medical aids, prosthesis, and orthopedic products, we have the National Association of Health Insurance Funds, which again decides if your application is accepted to be put on the list for reimbursement of medical aid. So, having said all this, in summary, we have a very well structured and reliable regulatory system in place, which, among other things, of course, is increasing the information duties of manufacturers. However, the system itself is a transparent system, and I will briefly try to demonstrate this by switching into this German DRG browser tool. This is free of charge, and it contains relevant statistics from 75% of the 2,000 hospitals in Germany. This is publicly accessible. You can browse case numbers as per ICD code, the diagnose, International Classification of Disease, per operation and procedure code, and you can find out about DRGs. For example, let's take a company which has a product used in the Oweiss procedure of intravascular ultrasound. Type in the OPS, which I've already done here, and what you get is the case number related to the relevant DRGs that are used by the hospital. So this is a very quick and easy way to get an idea of the market size and the market potential in Germany, and you will quickly have a basis to get in touch with doctors to see if they like your product. Thank you very much for listening. With this, I'm handing over to Omar.
Thank you, Gabriel, for that in-depth overview. Appreciate it. We already had a couple of questions come in, so keep them coming. That's excellent. Question that showed up a couple times is whether or not the slides will be available. Yes, they will be available. Again, best way to find it is at the URL at the bottom of my slides, the gtai.com/succeed in German healthcare. That is our webinar review side. Thanks again, Gabriel. Our next speaker, Gerd Gottschalk from GID Germany. He's the reimbursement director for Europe at the German branch of GI Dynamics, which was established 2012 in Düsseldorf. The company is headquartered in Massachusetts and has developed innovative medical devices addressing diabetes 2 and obesity. Gerd will present how GID Germany successfully entered and achieved reimbursement in Germany, a true testimonial for you. We look forward to his presentation. Gerd, I'm sending you the rights right now. Looks good.
So, great. Thank you, Omar, for this kind introduction. And hello, everybody. Yes, Gerd speaking. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this showcase. Yes, I'm into GI Dynamics since April 2012 and responsible for all market access and reimbursement activities of the company across Europe. I would like to show you and to invite you to follow the journey of Endobarrier through the German DRG system and how we developed a better reimbursement situation. The outline for the next minute is a little bit the explanation about the focus of Endobarrier, in total the DRG system background, and especially the NUP process, and in the end, a quick summary of what you heard. First of all, I would like to start with the clinical focus of our device and our company. GI Dynamics is a single device company which was founded in 2003 on the stock exchange since 2011. And the general idea of Endobarrier is to provide a new solution for treatment of type 2 diabetes and obesity using the well-known effect of bariatric procedure. Type 2 diabetes and obesity are two global challenges which are often overlapping each other. Diabetes affects more than 250 million people worldwide, and the number will rise until 2030 to 550,000, means 1 of 10 adults will be affected by these both diseases. In correlation with these both epidemics, several comorbidities like heart disease, stroke, kidney diseases, neuropathy, and others are associated, and you could imagine that these could be or will be a big problem for each healthcare system worldwide. The Endobarrier device, it's also in the literature sometimes referred as a duodenal urinary bypass liner, DGBL. It's a Teflon sleeve or liner with an anchor system at its end that holds the liner in place. The liner is 60 centimeters long, and the anchor system made of nitinol has 5 barbs. The liner is placed into the duodenum directly behind the pylorus, and the idea is that the food is going through the liner, and the ingredients from liver and pancreas are going outside, and after 60 centimeters, food and ingredients are coming together, and then we could observe a strong change in GLP-1 and PYY hormones, which lead to a significant reduction in HbA1c. And the barrier is indicated for use for maximum 12 months, means that these devices will be removed latest after 12 months. And the barrier is delivered and removed endoscopically with general anesthesia. Therefore, it's an inpatient treatment, and the device was CE marked and introduced in Germany in 2010. It's the only incision-free endoscopic solution to achieve glycemic control and weight loss at the same time. The procedure takes around 30 minutes for the implant and around 20 minutes for the explant. It does not involve surgery or permanent anatomic changes and could be removed quickly. Therefore, the barrier has a low risk profile. And the barrier has proven a dual effect. On the one side, immediate glycemic control by using lower diabetes medications, and on the other hand, really consistent and continuous weight reduction over these 12 months, giving the patient the opportunity to break down the chronic progression of these both diseases. The outcome in HbA1c drop, you see this on this slide, it's huge and strong, and it's really comparable with bariatric procedures like Roux-en-Y gastric bypass or gastric sleeves. On the other side, the weight loss, it's around 50% compared to the bariatric procedure. That is the end of the advertisement show here. And now I will talk about a little bit about the German DRG system and the NUP process. This simple slide shows the mechanism of the DRG system, and the most of DRG-based payment systems, which is really common in Europe, are working in the same way. The DRG system is usually a self-learning system, means that they are adjusted from time to time. In Germany, it's an annual recalculation based on data from the year before. For example, data from 2010 are analyzed in 2011, and the adjustment will be effective in 2012. It's very important to keep in mind that the DRG system should handle budgets accordingly with consideration of the performance of hospitals. Therefore, the reimbursement tariff DRG groups are average calculations and do normally not reflect the real cost of each procedure. Following the product launch in 2010, we have done all steps in order to introduce endobarrier to the German public reimbursement system, and we achieved significant outcomes. At first, we applied for an OPS code, and in 2011, and we achieved an OPS, an unspecific OPS code, effective in 2012. With this, we achieved partial reimbursement of the endobarrier procedure, but with unspecific OPS code, we could not engage in recalculation because of the cases of endobarrier were not visible into the DRG system. It means we could not show really that our device and our procedure is more costly as an average of the procedures which are in this DRG group. Because of the insufficient partial reimbursement, hospitals applied at the same time for NUP payment, for NUP process, but failed achieving NUP status 2, which means they are not entitled and not able to negotiate additional payments with health insurance funds. This situation in 2012 was really disappointing for us and our customers, but in 2013 we could change the world a little bit. Within our third OPS application, where we have changed significantly some fundamental wordings, we achieved with this application effective in 2014 a unique OPS code. It means since 2014 we could really account into the system as well the number of endobarrier procedures as well the cost of this procedure. Because of NUP status 1, hospitals are now able to negotiate additional payments for their endobarrier implantation with the regional health insurance funds, and it does increase interest and uses in endobarrier in Germany. The success of recalculation, which will be effective during the next years, it's not directly in the next year possible. It depends on the number of reported cases out of calculation hospitals and the quality of the reported data. In Germany, we have around 2,500 hospitals, around 10%, 250 are calculation hospitals. In the same time, hospitals applied as well for NUP status, and we achieved the NUP status 1. This is really unique in Germany. After 2 times status 2 to change to status 1, I have never seen it before in Germany. And that makes really a big change in our reimbursement situation. Endobarrier procedures are regularly reimbursed via this DRG system using an international ICD code for diabetes indication and as well an OPS, what I explained before. And you see in the bottom of this slide the regular development of this DRG group from 2012 2,022 euros to 2015, 2,245 euros, and you could imagine that it will take a long ride really to develop this group used on a regular basis. So, what was the reason behind this huge gap? The cost for the endoperineal procedure is around 6,200 procedure. The reason behind that, looking to the DRG browser, is that there are no implant costs visible in this DRG group, and that was a problem, and why we have this gap, financial gap in this space. Now, hospitals are able to negotiate, and this NUP means there are two steps. The first is the negotiation. The second one to get it's called NUP Entgelt NUP budget for the procedure, and on the second and the third time you have to send the invoice to the health insurance funds. But keep in your mind, the health insurance fund could review all case by case, and there are also good reviews cases because of wrong indication or wrong treatment. Therefore, an outstanding medical documentation is required in this space. For example, what does it mean for us? We have the regular reimbursement payment 2,245. We have an average of the NUP payments around 4,000, and the total payment is now 6,245 euros. That's mainly the cost for the procedure. It depends a little bit from the clinic, but it's sufficient for the most of our customers, and now they can work with these really and do the business and really provide this useful therapy to patients. To make clinics successful in the argumentation and the negotiation with health insurance funds, we are providing we are supporting them with a kind of calculation tools, so that they can really easily find out what is the cost, individual cost in the hospital. We have a handbook how to use this calculation tool. We are providing some information which the hospitals need to send to the health insurance funds, to make them really easy their work and really support them to be successful in this negotiation process. On the other hand, we are also providing some negotiation skills or trainings so that they are more confident how to speak with health insurance funds. A quick summary. The good thing is we have a dedicated process for innovative products in the inpatient area in Germany in place. An early market access and reimbursement strategy is useful and required. The development into the disease system takes time, a minimum 3 years, more often more than 3 years. A significant number of calculation hospitals, cases of calculation hospitals, is key to secure DRG development. Increasing number of users and cases will lead to attention by payers. You need to keep this in your mind, and as a result, we need more evidence in the future to make sure that new therapy and new devices could be really introduced successfully into the statutory healthcare system. At the end, management and TOL of the management of TOLs and medical society is very, very important. And my last slide is showing you the result of a consensus of 3 medical societies, which is also really not really unique in Germany. And we get the gastroenterologists, the surgeons, and the diabetologists on one table, and they develop these indications flow as well for diabetes and obesity, and only for obesity, how to use and when to use, and what is the indication for endobarrier and for our new therapy. That was my presentation. In case of any questions, you see my contact data. Please feel free to contact me. And now I would like to hand over to Omar for the continue moderation.
Yes, Gerd, thank you so much for your presentation, for your testimonial, and for the milestones you've reached over the last few years. So well done. Last but not least, our final speaker is Dr. Sandra Kreft, Head of Regulatory Affairs at Thematic Healthcare Group. This consulting firm is based in Germany's Medical Valley cluster in Nürnberg-Erlangen, and it consists of roughly 500 member companies, a university, as well as a university hospital. Thematic supports medtech companies regarding R&D, manufacturing, as well as marketing, and coordinates regional networks of suppliers and companies active in medtech. Sandra will provide a market access update regarding compliance with ISO 13485 and give some tips on how to navigate Germany's administrative bodies. Sandra, here you go. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Omar, for your introduction, and hello to everybody that is listening. The last and third part today is going to deal with the medical quality management and will inform you about German authorities. So within the healthcare sector, the evidence of a quality system is mandatory to all manufacturers of medical devices. Its establishment contributes to financial, economical, and organizational improvement of your company. When it now comes to medical products, the DIN norm 13485 is the standard of choice. It describes requirements on a quality management system regarding design, development, and manufacturing of the medical devices and their components. The standard is based on the ISO 9001, which is a general quality management norm, but also on the medical product laws and the European Medical Device Directive. The main contents of the ISO norm 13485 are represented here. It may look a bit confusing, but I will explain it to you. So the focus of this ISO norm is based on risk management, also to product safety and data control. But it also tells you how to document the development, in which cases maybe also preventive or corrective actions have to be taken, and what to do if you have contaminated products or also some non-conformances. The ISO gives also advice to internal audit processes and device callbacks, but in the end we can summarize it is all about retraceability. When you now plan to implement this ISO norm in your company, the first step is the preparation of a quality handbook. There are templates in the internet with the required contents. Maybe I give some examples. So you state your quality aims, all the information about your company, what processes are involved, what you do, and yeah, what is regarding the quality things. You all put it together in this compendium. So then you define your processes. That may be processes how you produce or manufacture your product, but also how you develop it, or how you document your product, etc. You can also define standard operating procedures, which are similar to processes, but more detailed. So you write down how your co-workers can do such a procedure, so that they can do this every time in the same manner. The next step will be then the analysis of all the defined processes or the standard operating procedures, but in practice. So maybe you have written all the documents, but then when you want to work after them, you notice that it's not quite practical, so maybe you have to change some small details in this so you can work according to them. Of course, you have also to monitor all the quality records and all the documents that you have. This you will do, in parallel maybe. And it is very important to perform also internal periodic revisions on your documents. And please bear in mind that the ISO standards are updated periodically. When you have integrated your documents in work life, you would like to search now for a suitable certification agency, also called notified body. Some of the larger agencies in Germany are TÜV, DEKRA, medtech, and DQS. But there are also some others, some smaller, some more large. And the difference between them is that not all agencies or notified bodies certify for the same things. Some only certify for some different ISO norms and some others to others, and not all can certify the same products afterwards. It is important for you to compare several quotes of several notified bodies, because then you can save money, because the different notified bodies take different prices for the certifications. The audit itself is now shown here. So first, you can have a pre-audit, but this is optional. In this case, the auditor gives you some hints how to handle your quality management system and your documents. The real audit then starts only afterwards. So in the step 1 audit, there is a system analysis and check of your documents, while in the step 2 audit, this is then the certification audit, after which you get your paper certificate. In the second and third year, there is always a small audit to ensure that you work after your quality handbook and can behold your paper certificate. And then in the fourth year, there's a larger audit again to obtain a new certificate. So all the certificates for the quality management system will be for 3 years only. For the implementation and the certification of the quality management system, actually no authorities are involved. But this is different when it comes to the approval of medical products. Medical products have to be tested and analyzed in detail before you can apply for the approval, including technical testings like usability testings, process validations, or electronic safety testings, and biological testings. And here always included, or most often included, is the bioburden test. That means the bacterial load on a surface or a medical product, the sterilization capacity, and the test whether your product or a material is cytotoxic to body cells. So when you have the data of these validations, you can apply for a certification for the CE mark. And for this, you have to hand in all your data. Either you write a clinical evaluation. That means when a lot of data is already present that proves safety and efficacy of your product, then the analysis and evaluation of this present clinical data is sufficient for the certification agency to look or to judge your product. When there is not enough data, especially on the safety and efficacy, then new clinical data has to be collected, and this has to be done in a clinical study. Just here I have put a link for you. This is a list of all notified bodies in Germany that certify or can certify you after ISO norms for quality management system, but can also certificate your medical products for CE. So when you're looking for different or several notified bodies, you can look here. It is also stated which products or ISO norms they certify. I will shortly come to clinical studies in Germany now. which follows a certain DIN ISO norm, which is the 14155. What do you have to do now when you plan a clinical study in Germany? So first you have to appoint a principal investigator that takes over the responsibility for the whole study. Most often this is a clinical physician. A study plan, including all the information about the planned study, has then to be formulated, most often then also by the principal investigator. And this plan has then to be submitted to an ethics committee and to a higher federal authority. Only if both of this accept the study, it can also be realized. If you need help for clinical studies, there are so-called centers for clinical studies, which often belongs to universities, and also clinical research organizations, which offer help in preparation, conduction, and analysis of studies in Germany. So at last we come to the German authorities in Germany. This is just an overview, and I will explain it to you on an example for the clinical studies. For medical products, the essential authority is the DIMD. This is the German Institute of Medical Documentation and Information. It collects all information on drugs and medical products that are obtained during time. But actually, the DIMD has a double role. On the one hand, it protects all products that want to be sold on the market have to be registered there to enable market surveillance. On the other hand, all applications for clinical studies have to go through the DIMD. The DIMD then shares the application with the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices and with the Ethics Committee. The Federal Institute for Medical Devices will look at the risk evaluation of the products, and the Ethics Committee then will look at the ethical part of the study. The Ethical Committee is either a committee of a university or university hospital, or one of the Federal Medical Association, and that is dependent on where the principal investigator is registered. The Federal Joint Committee is, as we already heard before, responsible for the reimbursement of products by the health insurance system, but it is only partly involved in clinical studies. For new medical products, for example, the Federal Joint Committee can demand clinical studies or different data from the manufacturers. The product, for example, has to have equal or higher medical effectiveness compared to standard therapy. Well, I will end my part now with a short checklist for you, where you can look whether, what you have already done when you want to go to the German market with a product. So you have to look at the quality management and risk management, to laws and guidelines here in Germany and the EU. Then you look at the data you obtain from testing and validations, and then you communicate with notified bodies and authorities to get a CE certification. Afterwards, maybe you're looking for placement on market and effective marketing and networking with other contributors. So if you're looking for a German contact that can help you with the stated requirements to get on the German market, we from Thematic have a lot of experience in this field and can offer you to help and guide you. And for this, you can just contact me at this contact data there. So thank you very much for listening, and with this, I give back to Omar.
Thank you, Sandra, as well for your presentation. Very great detail, and as I said, we will have all these presentations up on our website shortly after the completion of the webinar. We have now 10 minutes for our open forum Q&A. Here again, it's your chance to ask questions. I already have a great deal of questions here, and I will go ahead and begin right off the bat. First question, what were key clinical or economic outcomes that you needed to demonstrate to achieve the higher NUB payment? And there's a second part here. What type of evidence is required? Does data need to be based upon German patients, or are other data sets permitted? I think that's maybe a question for Sandra. I can repeat it again if you'd like me to.
Yeah, please.
Sure. What were key clinical or economic outcomes that you needed to demonstrate higher NUB payment? And then what data sets are required? German patient data set, or is other external data set permitted?
So actually, I think that may be a better question for Gerd Gottschalk, actually. For the NUB processes, I'm not so familiar with at the moment.
Okay. Okay, I will try to answer this question. So, in general, you don't need clinical data to apply for NUB. NUB is only related to cost data, and you need to describe really precisely which costs are produced through your procedure with your device. It's also related not to a special device, not to endobarrier. It's a full procedure, the complete implant or explant procedure, and you have really to describe these. You should make your costs visible on the same same calculation tool, using the same calculation tool what INEC is using. I have showed that on one slide, and this is available for all other DRG groups. So my recommendation is really to look into this DRG group, what is into the group, and later on you have to make a different cost calculation, and these need to provide it with the NUB application. The NUB application as well is a special format which is visible on the INEC homepage, and there is a time frame, I assume since from August until the end of October. That is the deadline. In this time frame, you could put the data in, and you have to describe the procedure and everything around the product and so on. What that is, or comparable therapies and so on. A lot of questions need to be answered, but you don't need evidence, medical evidence, but you have to make visible where are the cost difference are coming from.
Thank you, Gert. Appreciate it. Quick follow-up question. Can you sell a product for more than the DRG amount before receiving the NUB approval? And then did GID struggle with sales before receiving NUB approval?
That's a good question. Yes, you can. You can. It depends a little bit from the therapy. Hospitals are working on a budget based on a hospital budget. So, and if the treatment and the therapy, I would like to call it sexy enough and interesting enough, they can do what they want and what they think what is really good for the patient. So they can use procedures and products, and they could do for these procedures in single case deficits. That it's their problem, not the problem from the society or from everybody else. Yes, they can. And to make that, and that is the second part of this question, you need to explain the needs, the medical needs. If there is a big medical need, you will find a good followers and good people which are really engaged in your procedure and in your product. And if there's a low medical need, this interest is quite lower. And on the second one, you are also able to give discounts or anything else what you would like to do, but that is really be careful with that, because of if you are giving discounts in the early stage of your launch from the product, these discounts are visible, and you will never get the price back on the level as before.
Thank you, Gert. Another question here. When should we expect the Medical Device Directive UDI compliance deadlines, and to what extent will MDD or medical device directives resemble the FDA UDI requirements?
Okay, I can take that, Omar. This is Gabriel. As to when to expect UTI, this goes with the general expectation as to when the proposal will be effective. So I would not expect it before 2018 unless there would be some immediate action in this case. And this, the other question as to compare it to the FDA system, it is likely to be similar to the FDA system. We can discuss details after the webinar if you like. Feel free to send me an email and let's take that forward. And we can also include some experts and additional experts in specific questions anytime. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Here's a question I think maybe for Sandra. This one should be up your alley. How long does it take from application at a notified body to approval of a product ISO certification, and how often is the ISO 13485 updated?
Okay, so first to the second part, the ISO is updated around every 2 to 3 years, I would say. So the last versions were from 2010 and then 12 now, and the next one is at the moment in process. So maybe end of the year or 2016 there will be the new version of the ISO norm 13485. And to the time frame from the application to the approval, it of course depends on how many data is there and how good the data and the documents are. So when everything is good in line and everything with the quality management and risk management is perfect, then the notified body does take only shortly. And when they of course have to order new or more documents for them to review, then it takes longer. But one has to have in mind that when you do the application and send them the first information that you want to apply for certification, then it takes about, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks unless you get a quote. And then with this quote, you then can manage some data for the audits, and often it is 3 or 4 months in between the approval, the application and then the audits for the approvals.
Great, thank you, Sandra. Here's a question about CE mark. For CE or related to CE, is it just a symbol or is there a number associated with this symbol? Maybe.
So this depends on the risk class of the medical product. For risk products, so for products with a low risk or almost no risk, it's only the CE mark as symbol. And when you have a very high risk product, then the notified body has to have the individual number also with the CE mark. So for example, the TÜV has 1, 2, 3. And when you now have a high-risk product and you see the CE 1, 2, 3, you exactly know that this was approved by the TÜV.
Great, thank you, Sandra. And I think we have time for one more question. I believe this one was directed towards GID. Just let me read it. How did you make, or how did they make the OPS applications, and how many procedures per year were performed the year they got the OPS code?
If I understood it right, how
Sure.
we are using consultants in Germany, and you should do a good evaluation of consultants in Germany. There are lots, we do have a lot of consultants here, and all do have a specialty and a strength, and so you have to really select the right partner. It depends on the therapy and on the required contacts to the medical societies. Important for the OPS application is as well, you need to have the support from the responsible medical society. These OPS application is sent from the medical, or you need to mention this medical society where you are in contact with. I assume that this DIMD is get a lot of these, I don't know exactly the number, but they do maybe 10% of these OPS application are successful because of the most of these applications, like our application in 2010 and 11, are included in existing OPS codes. Means DIMD decided that this is not a new procedure, it's included in existing procedure, and that it's really a tough situation for manufacturer if we have this situation. So be careful with your wording. We changed the word a little bit in 2013 because of we get in contact with the 3 medical societies, and in alignment with these 3, we changed the wording for our liner. It's called before endoprothesis, and later on it's known like a Kunststoff conduit, and that was the reason why we get this OPS code.
Great. Well, thank you. And I think that's a good point to end this our webinar today. Again, here's our hyperlink for the webinar review page. You can send me an email if you have any questions. I want to take this opportunity to thank our speakers again, Sandra, Gert, and Gabriel, and wish you all a wonderful evening. Really appreciate your insights and your presentations today, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much.